I rolled my eyes and said, I was desperate when I married you. He finally had enough and left me. I'm sitting at my vanity in our master bedroom, applying another layer of mascara, when I hear Ethan's voice from the doorway. Nora, we're already 20 minutes late. Everyone's waiting for us at the Rusty Spoon. I glance at him through the mirror. He's wearing that navy sweater I got him last Christmas, the one that actually fits him properly, unlike most of his wardrobe. For a moment, I feel a flicker of appreciation at how handsome my 37-year-old husband looks when he puts in minimal effort. Almost done, I say, reaching for my lipstick. You know Cassidy's birthday dinner isn't going to fall apart if we're fashionably late. I think, God, he's always so punctual, it's suffocating. It's just dinner with friends, not a military operation. Ethan sighs, checking his watch. We said we'd be there at 7. It's already 7:22. Relax. I snap, feeling irritation crawl up my spine. They'll survive. The truth is, I'm not excited about tonight. Cassidy has been my friend since college, but lately, I've found her and her husband Glenn unbearably dull. They're always talking about their renovations or their kids' soccer games. I'm 33, and sometimes I feel like I'm surrounded by people who've given up on actually living. In the car, I scroll through Instagram while Ethan drives. The silence between us feels heavy with unspoken tension. You could at least pretend to be excited, Ethan says, eyes on the road. I think, here we go again with the guilt trips. I'm tired, Ethan. I had a long week at work. I manage the marketing department at Corvus Tech, and this quarter's campaign has been particularly stressful. We all have long weeks, he says quietly. I roll my eyes. Ethan's job as an architectural engineer is stable and predictable. He doesn't understand the creative pressure I'm under constantly. The Rusty Spoon is packed when we arrive. It's one of those trendy farm-to-table places in the renovated warehouse district of Millfield. Inside, fairy lights stretch across exposed brick walls, and the smell of rosemary and garlic hangs in the air. I spot Cassidy waving enthusiastically from a long wooden table in the corner. There are 8 of them already seated. Cassidy and Glenn, Mike and his new girlfriend whose name I can never remember, Ben and Tara, and another couple I don't recognize. Finally, Cassidy exclaims as we approach. She stands to hug me, her flowery perfume engulfing me. We were about to send out a search party. Sorry we're late, Ethan says, shaking Glenn's hand. My fault entirely. I immediately feel annoyed at his lie to cover for me. I think, why does he always have to be so damn accommodating? It's pathetic. No, it was my fault. I correct him, sliding into an empty chair. I couldn't decide what to wear to this. Lovely establishment. I glance around at the rustic decor with thinly veiled judgment. I notice Tara giving Ethan a sympathetic look, which irritates me further. 2 hours and 3 glasses of Pinot Noir later, I'm feeling looser. The conversation has moved from Cassidy's birthday to relationship talk. Glenn has just finished telling some saccharine story about how he knew Cassidy was the one when she nursed him through food poisoning on their 3rd date. Disgusting but sweet, Tara says, leaning against Ben. What about you two? Mike's girlfriend, Kelly, that's her name, asks, looking at Ethan and me. How did you know you were meant for each other? I laugh too loudly. Oh God, there was no grand romantic revelation. Ethan looks at me with a small smile. I knew pretty early on, after our 2nd date actually. We went hiking at Blackberry Ridge and it started pouring rain halfway through. Instead of complaining, Nora just laughed and turned it into an adventure. I feel a twinge of something, nostalgia, guilt, but I push it away. That was 8 years and a lifetime ago. Ethan was more persistent than impressive, I say, swirling my wine. He just wore me down eventually. A few uncomfortable chuckles ripple around the table. Cassidy, ever the peacemaker, jumps in. But you guys have been rock solid for what, 7 years of marriage now? 6.5, Ethan corrects quietly. 6.5 years of domestic bliss, I say with exaggerated dreaminess, then laugh again. Actually, you know what? I was job hunting in a terrible economy and my lease was ending. Ethan had just bought his house. The timing was convenient. The table falls silent. I can feel Ethan stiffen beside me. Glenn, clearly trying to salvage the moment, raises his glass. Well, here's to timing, and to my beautiful birthday girl. Everyone except Ethan raises their glasses. When I look over, his face is completely blank. his eyes focused on something far away. I think he's so sensitive. It was just a joke. Mike launches into a story about his disaster of a trip to Bermuda, and the tension momentarily dissipates. But Ethan remains quiet for the rest of dinner, only speaking when directly addressed. On the drive home, the silence between us feels different, sharper somehow. "You're awfully quiet," I say, keeping my tone light. "Did you not like your steak?" Ethan's hands tighten on the steering wheel. "Do you really think that's what I'm upset about?" I roll my eyes. "Oh, come on. It was just dinner conversation. Everyone was joking around." Everyone else was sharing loving stories about their relationships. Ethan says, his voice controlled. "You basically told our friends that you married me out of desperation and convenience." I laugh, though it sounds hollow even to my ears. "Don't be so dramatic. It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like, Nora? Because from where I'm sitting, you made it pretty clear how you feel about our marriage." We pull into our driveway on Wicker Lane. The porch light I'd forgotten to turn off casts a yellow glow across our front yard. Normally, Ethan would comment on the wasted electricity. Tonight, he says nothing. Inside, I kick off my heels in the entryway, feeling the tension radiating off him. "Are you seriously going to sulk all night because of one comment?" Ethan stands in our kitchen, his back to the granite island we spent 3 months deciding on when we renovated last year. "It's not one comment. It's a pattern." "A pattern?" I laugh incredulously. "Now you're just being absurd." "Last month at my company picnic, you told my boss's wife that you settled down before figuring out what you actually wanted in life. The week before that, you told your sister on the phone that sometimes you wonder what life would be like if you'd kept your options open longer." I think, has he been keeping a list of my offhand comments? "You're eavesdropping on my conversations now?" "I'm not eavesdropping when you say these things loudly, often when I'm in the same room." Ethan runs a hand through his dark hair. "Do you even want to be married to me anymore?" The question hangs in the air between us. I should rush to reassure him, but something stops me. Pride, maybe, or the fact that I'm still annoyed at him for making such a big deal out of nothing. "You're blowing this way out of proportion," I say instead, heading toward the stairs. "I'm going to bed. We can talk when you're being reasonable." I'm in the bathroom removing my makeup when I hear the front door close. Through the window, I watch Ethan's car back out of the driveway. I think, fine, go cool off, you'll be back. But Ethan doesn't come home that night. At 2:18 a.m., I finally text him, "Where are you? It's late." His response comes immediately, like he's been awake. "At Mike's. Don't wait up." I lie awake until dawn, cycling between anger and unease. By morning, I've settled on indignation. How dare he make such a scene over dinner banter? Ethan returns around 10 a.m. I'm sitting at our kitchen table with a cup of coffee, scrolling through work emails on my laptop. He looks tired, his clothes wrinkled. "Feel better after your dramatic exit?" I ask, not looking up. Ethan sets his keys on the counter. "We need to talk, Nora." "About how you overreacted? Sure." He sits across from me. "I've been thinking about this all night. I can't keep doing this." For the first time, I feel a flutter of real concern. Doing what exactly? Pretending that this is working. Pretending that you respect me or even like me most days. I close my laptop. "That's ridiculous. Of course I like you." "Do you?" Because from what you say to me, about me, to other people, it doesn't feel that way. His voice is calm, which somehow makes this worse. "When was the last time you said something kind to me, or about me?" I open my mouth to respond, but realize I can't remember. I think, this isn't fair. I'm just straightforward. Not everyone needs constant validation. "You're making it sound like I'm abusive or something," I say. "I'm just not the gushing type." "There's a difference between not being the gushing type and consistently putting me down," Ethan says. "I don't need constant praise, Nora, but I do need basic respect." "This is absurd," I say, standing up. One comment at dinner, and suddenly our entire marriage is a sham. It's not one comment, it's years of comments, years of feeling like I'm your last choice, your compromise, like I'm something you settled for. I laugh, but it sounds brittle. "Now who's being dramatic?" Ethan looks at me for a long moment. "I'm staying at Mike's for a while. I need some space to think." "Space? Over this?" I feel panic rising. This conversation has veered wildly off course. Ethan, come on, you know I didn't mean anything by it. That's the problem, he says quietly. You never mean anything by it. It's just how you talk about me, about us, like it doesn't matter. He stands. I'll come by tomorrow to pick up some clothes while you're at work. I watch, stunned, as he walks out the door again. This time, I don't think he's coming back tonight. I spend Sunday alternating between anger and disbelief. By evening, I've left 3 voicemails on Ethan's phone, each more irritated than the last. He doesn't call back. Monday morning, I'm at my desk at Corvus Tech, unable to focus on anything. Around noon, my phone pings with a text from Cassidy. Everything okay with you guys? Ethan seemed really upset at dinner. I think, great, now they're all talking about us. I text back, minor disagreement. He's being sensitive. Cassidy responds, if you need to talk, I'm here. I ignore it. I don't need relationship advice from someone who thinks food poisoning is romantic. When I get home, I can tell Ethan has been there. His gray duffel bag is gone, along with some clothes and his laptop. He's left his key on the kitchen counter. 2 weeks pass. Ethan and I communicate only through terse texts about practical matters: bills, mail, his upcoming dentist appointment. I tell myself this is just a childish phase he's going through, that he'll realize he's overreacting. I'm standing in our closet on a Saturday morning, realizing how empty Ethan's side has become when my phone rings. It's Glenn, which is unusual. Ethan and Glenn have always been closer than Cassidy and I. Hey, Glenn, I answer, trying to sound casual. What's up? Nora, he says, his voice serious. I need to talk to you about Ethan. I sit on the edge of the bed. What about him? He's filing for divorce, Nora. The words hit me like a physical blow. He's what? He asked me not to tell you, but I thought you should know before you get the papers. He's been talking to a lawyer. This is ridiculous, I say, but my voice sounds distant to my own ears. We had one fight. He's punishing me. Glenn sighs. Nora, with all due respect from what Ethan said, it hasn't been just one fight. He pauses. Look, I'm not trying to take sides here, but I've known you both a long time. Ethan's not the type to make this kind of decision impulsively. After I hang up, I sit motionless on the bed for a long time. Divorce over what? Some candid comments? This can't be happening. I drive to Mike's apartment in a daze. I've only been there once before for a Super Bowl party last year. I think I'll make him see reason. This has gone far enough. I knock on the door, prepared for a confrontation, but it's Mike who answers, looking uncomfortable. He's not here, Nora. Where is he? I demand, trying to look past him into the apartment. He asked me not to say. I think you should give him some space. I feel a surge of anger. So you're on his side? Have you even heard my side of the story? Mike looks genuinely sad. It's not about sides. But I was at that dinner, Nora, and honestly, it was hard to watch. His words stopped me cold. I think, was it really that bad? Look, Mike continues, Ethan's been staying here on and off, but he's been different. Better, actually. He joined my cycling group. He's reconnecting with his college friends. I haven't seen him this, I don't know, peaceful in a long time. I feel like I've stepped into an alternate reality. Peaceful? Our marriage is falling apart. I think for him, it already had, Mike says gently. I'm sorry, Nora. I drive home in tears, something I haven't done since my father's funeral 4 years ago. At home, I pour myself a large glass of wine and pull out my phone. I scroll through recent photos. There are hardly any of Ethan and me together. I have to go back months to find one, from a work function where we're standing awkwardly apart, my smile tight, his eyes not quite meeting the camera. Was Mike right? Had our marriage been falling apart without me realizing it? A week later, the divorce papers arrive. I'm in my kitchen, sorting through mail, when I find the large envelope. Inside, cold legal language outlines the end of 6.5 years together. Ethan is asking for very little, just his personal belongings and his portion of our savings. He's leaving me the house. I sink into a chair, papers scattered across the table. This is really happening. That night, I dig through our old photo albums. There we are on our first vacation to Puerto Rico, both sunburned and grinning. At our wedding, dancing with my head thrown back in laughter while Ethan gazed at me with such adoration that it hurts to look at now. Moving day at our first apartment, covered in paint after an impromptu fight with the rollers. When did that happiness fade? When did my comments, which I'd always considered harmless teasing, become daggers? When did I start seeing Ethan's reliability as boring rather than comforting? I call Cassidy the next day and ask her to meet me for coffee at Meadowlark Cafe. She looks nervous when she arrives, like she's walking into a minefield. I got the divorce papers, I say without preamble. She nods slowly. I heard. Did everyone know except me? She stirs her latte. I think you were the only one who didn't see how unhappy he was, Nora. I feel defensive anger rise. He never said anything. Did you ever give him the chance? Cassidy asks gently. Nora, I love you, but you can be hard on people, especially Ethan. That night at my birthday dinner wasn't unusual. It was just the breaking point. I think back to all the dinners, parties, and gatherings where I'd made similar comments. Had I really been so blind? I didn't mean to hurt him, I say, my voice small. It was just banter. It wasn't banter to him, Cassidy says. It was death by 1,000 cuts. Every time you made one of those comments, everyone at the table would cringe. We could see him shrinking. I think, were they all judging me this whole time? The thought makes me flush with embarrassment. Why didn't anyone say anything, I ask, a defensive edge creeping into my voice. Cassidy looks down at her coffee cup. Tara tried once, remember? At the Labor Day barbecue last year? She pulled you aside after you made that joke about Ethan's promotion being the most exciting thing that would ever happen to him. The memory hits me like a slap. Tara had cornered me by the coolers, her voice low. Hey, maybe ease up on Ethan a bit? Those jokes land pretty hard. I dismissed her as being oversensitive and avoided her for the rest of the party. I thought she was overreacting, I murmur. We all hoped you'd figure it out, Cassidy says. But after a while, people started pulling away. Have you noticed you and Ethan get fewer invitations lately? I hadn't, but now that she mentions it, our social calendar had been emptier this past year. I'd assumed everyone was just busy with kids and work. So everyone's on Team Ethan, I say bitterly. Cassidy sighs. It's not about teams, Nora, but you have to understand how it looked from the outside. Ethan would show up to everything, always bringing something, always helping clean up, always asking about everyone's lives, and you'd spend half the time making him the butt of your jokes. I'm sitting in the small cafe, surrounded by the afternoon bustle, feeling more alone than I ever have. I think, how did I not see what I was doing? Have you talked to him? Cassidy asks. I shake my head. He won't answer my calls. I'm not even sure where he's staying now. He's renting that small loft above Phoenix Yoga Studio, she says, then adds quickly, Glenn told me. Of course he is. It's exactly the kind of artsy downtown space I'd always dismissed as impractical and overpriced. I'd vetoed Ethan's suggestion that we look there when we were house hunting. 3 days later, I find myself standing outside Phoenix Yoga Studio on Blackwater Street. The evening air is cool against my skin as I gather my courage and climb the exterior staircase to the second floor. I knock on the single door at the top. When Ethan opens it, I'm startled by how good he looks. He's lost weight, and his usually clean-shaven face sports a short, neat beard. He's wearing a simple black t-shirt I don't recognize. Nora, he says, clearly surprised. What are you doing here? I don't even know what I'm doing here. Can I come in? He hesitates, then steps aside. The loft is small but beautiful. Exposed brick walls, tall windows, minimalist furniture. Late afternoon sunlight streams across wooden floors, giving everything a golden glow. Nice place, I say awkwardly. Thanks, Ethan says, closing the door. It's temporary. I stand in the middle of the room, suddenly unsure what to say. I've rehearsed a dozen speeches on the drive over, but they all seem inadequate now. I got the papers, I finally say. Ethan nods. I figured. Are you really sure about this? I ask, hating how small my voice sounds. 6.5 years? Just over? Ethan moves to the kitchen area and leans against the counter. There's a calmness about him that's new. It's been over for a long time, Nora. We both know that. I didn't know that, I say, feeling tears threatening. I really didn't. For the first time, Ethan looks genuinely surprised. How could you not? When was the last time we had a conversation that didn't end with you being irritated with me? When was the last time you seemed happy to see me when I came home? I open my mouth to protest, but the words die on my lips. I can't remember. I tried, Nora, he continues. his voice soft with resignation rather than anger. For years I tried. I planned surprise dates. I supported your career moves. I tried to be interested in your friends and hobbies, but nothing was ever good enough. I was never exciting enough, or ambitious enough, or whatever enough. That's not true, I say, but even as the words leave my mouth, I know they're a lie. How many times had I complained to Cassidy about Ethan's stable, boring job? How many times had I rolled my eyes when he talked about his model train hobby or his interest in local history? I'm sorry, I say, the words feeling woefully inadequate. I didn't realize how I was making you feel. Ethan's expression softens slightly. I believe you, but that almost makes it worse in a way. You hurt me so casually that you didn't even notice you were doing it. I think he's right. I've been a monster without even realizing it. Can we try again? I ask, desperation creeping into my voice. Counseling, maybe? I can change, Ethan. I will change. Ethan looks at me for a long moment, and I see genuine sadness in his eyes. The thing is, Nora, I don't think you're the only one who needs to change. He gestures around the loft. These past few weeks have been clarifying. I've realized how much of myself I gave up trying to meet your expectations, how much I twisted myself to try to be someone you could respect. I feel my chest tighten. I did respect you. No, he says gently, you didn't. And eventually I stopped respecting myself too. He takes a deep breath. That dinner at the Rusty Spoon, when you said you married me out of desperation, it wasn't just hurtful because of what you said. It was hurtful because part of me believed it was true, that someone like you would only be with someone like me out of desperation. My tears are flowing freely now. That's not true, Ethan. When we met, I was crazy about you. Maybe you were, he acknowledges, but somewhere along the way that changed, and I need to figure out who I am without constantly trying to be good enough for you. I'm standing in his beautiful temporary loft, feeling the finality in his words. This isn't a negotiation or a power play. This is goodbye. I loved you, I whisper. I loved you too, he says, but love shouldn't make you feel small. 2 months later, our divorce is finalized with surprising efficiency. Ethan was generous in the settlement, leaving me the house and most of our joint assets. I couldn't bring myself to fight for more, not when I knew what I had done. I'm sitting in my home office, formerly our guest room, staring at my computer screen without really seeing it. Work has become my refuge, the one place where I still feel competent and in control. My phone buzzes with a text from Tara, surprising me. We haven't spoken much since the separation. Lunch next week? Tuesday at Greenbrier? I hesitate, then type, I'd like that. Thank you. Rebuilding friendships has been harder than I expected. Some, like my relationship with Cassidy, have survived, though they're different now, more careful, more honest. Others, like with Ben and Tara, are fragile works in progress. Some, like with Mike and Kelly, seem permanently damaged. I've started seeing a therapist, Dr. Landon, who doesn't let me hide behind my usual defenses. In our sessions, I'm slowly unpacking the insecurity and fear that made me lash out at the person who loved me most. Why did I need to make Ethan smaller to feel big? Why couldn't I recognize the value in his steadiness, his kindness? I ran into Glenn at the grocery store last week. After some awkward small talk, he mentioned that Ethan was seeing someone new, a pottery instructor named Celine who teaches at the community center. I felt a sharp pain at this news, even though I had no right to. Is he happy? I asked, not sure I wanted to know the answer. Glenn had looked at me with unexpected kindness. He seems to be getting there. I'm standing in my kitchen now, not ours, on a Friday evening in late autumn. Through the window, I can see my neighbor's children jumping in piles of fallen leaves. The house feels too big for just me, filled with echoes of a life I took for granted. On the counter sits a small package that arrived today. Inside was a book on architectural history that Ethan had ordered months ago, finally delivered. There was no note, just his name on the packing slip. Another loose end from our unraveled life together. I pick up my phone and type a message to Ethan. A book came for you today. I can drop it off somewhere if you'd like. His response comes an hour later. Thanks. You can leave it at Mike's if that's easier for you. So formal, so distant. I think about the man who once wrote me love notes and hid them in my lunch bag, the man whose eyes lit up when I entered a room, the man I slowly, carelessly destroyed with 1,000 casual cruelties. I text back, I will. And Ethan, I'm sorry for everything. You deserved better. The typing dots appear, disappear, appear again. Finally, thank you for saying that. I hope you're doing okay, Nora. Even now, even after everything, he's still kind. The realization makes me sink to the kitchen floor, clutching the phone to my chest as sobs shake my body. I stay there until darkness fills the kitchen, thinking about the woman I was and the woman I need to become. The one who took love for granted, who thought respect was optional in a relationship. The one who said I was desperate when I married you, to the man who had only ever treated her with devotion. It's too late for us. That's the hardest truth I've had to accept. Some damage can't be undone. But as I finally pull myself up from the cold tile floor, I make a promise to myself and to the ghost of our marriage that haunts this house. I will never again mistake cruelty for cleverness. I will never again destroy what I should cherish. Outside, the wind scatters leaves across the yard Ethan used to meticulously maintain. Tomorrow, I'll rake them myself. It's a small thing, learning to care for what I have left, but it's a start.